And we are live. Hello, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, Jess. Hi, everyone. Today we have Positive Jess, our resident expert panelist on relationships, coach, trainer, author, multilingual expert, and she's here to teach us about the go, no go zone. Jess, over to you.
Thanks, Peter. Thanks so much for tuning in. Yes, we're going to be talking about the go, no go zone. What is the go, no go zone? Well, there are things in relationship that you want, and there are things that you do not want. What some people talk about, negotiables and non-negotiables, or they talk about boundaries. All of those are pretty interesting and important. However, one of the things that we've discovered is that there is a whole process to it for it to be effective, and especially in relationship and to communicate. So that's what I wanted to talk about, especially during this time. And when we are going through anything challenging at the time of this recording and this call, we are just starting to come out of quarantine. So a lot of couples have been struggling, and there's been new normals. And so let's talk about that. Let's talk about what are those new normals and what do we want? What do we want to create? How do we want to have this beautiful relationship be? Because it can be beautiful, even if it doesn't seem like right now. So let's jump right into it. First step, there's this 3-step process that I've created, and I dive deeper on this during my course. However, here it is in snippets, because if you listen to this, you will have takeaways. So take notes, make sure you apply it, and it will create shifts 100%, no joke. All right, so first step of the 3-step process is self-awareness. We've been talking a lot about that recently, and you know, a lot of people talk about our emotional home or our emotional state or emotional IQ. It's really looking at oneself before doing anything in your relationship. You first go within. Then we're going to be talking about clarity, which is the go, no go zone or go, no go list, and dive deeper on how do we get that clarity. And then we're going to talk about agreement, making an agreement or communicating and how we do that so that we can actually implement it. So let's dive right into it. First part, self-awareness. So anything you do in any kind of relationship, really, if you are, and it's funny, we were talking about it earlier in one of our live calls, and Peter, our founder, was talking about how children, it's really interesting, you know, he had this children on vacation, and at one point they were not behaving the way they usually do in a, you know, well-mannered area, like poised way. It's, you know, how children can get sometimes. It's like all over screaming and shouting and running and going places they're not supposed to be going, and a lot to handle. And they noticed, well, yeah, we normally have, you know, bedtimes, and we normally wake up at a certain time, and we normally eat a certain kind of food, and they have water, and they have rest, and, you know, they're taken care of, so that for their emotional or their behavior will be different, right? So if you're changing that environment for the children, it's very easy to see that with children is going to say, well, yeah, they didn't get enough sleep, they didn't get enough water, they, you know, they ate pancakes at the buffet on vacation instead of having a healthy green lunch and etc. So we're really good at doing that with kids. With ourselves, not so much. And it is crucial to do that, especially before trying to achieve anything in a relationship or change anything or shift anything, is really self-mastery, self-awareness. So how do we do that? I have, you know, I have this feel-good menu that it would take too long to get into, that's in my course, and also the 7 steps to expansion. So how to go from being extremely frustrated to a state of expansion, well-being, and joy. There's like these 7 steps. They don't take very long, that you can use in combination of the feel-good menu to get you there. However, I have, and that's discussed during the course, but I do have something for you right now that you can apply that will help. So you're going to make a list of all areas of your life, right? You're like, yeah, but I'm talking about relationship. Yes, and first things first. Look at your environment, right? Self-awareness in your environment is, so right now I'm in the middle of moving while I'm doing this call. I'm in the middle of moving and the place is a mess. I have been tidying and prioritizing that because I know how important that is for me. So look at your environment. Is it sunny? Do you have enough oxygen in the room, right, where you're spending time? Can you tidy up a little bit? Do you need to declutter a little bit? That helps tons emotionally. It really does. Then look at your health, right? Like we're talking about the children. What are you eating? Are you drinking enough water, right? Again, oxygen as well. Are you working out? Even, it doesn't need to be a drastic change, but look at what makes you feel good in those areas. Because making you feel good, then you will be good. You will act good, right? Do good. I feel good, I do good. I don't feel so good, the result might be a little different. Then look at your spirituality maybe. Do you want to meditate? Is that something that you want to do? If it's something important for you that makes you feel good, look at that area too. Your hobbies, what are you doing for fun? And you may tell me, Jessica, I don't have time for fun right now. It could be just some fun audiobook that you listen to when you're in the shower. Or it could be jumping jacks when you're getting ready. You know, I do this like funny dance when I brush my teeth. It's fun. If you can do things, and if you can't find 10, 15, 20 minutes to do something for yourself that's fun, then there's a problem. You really want to nurture that part, or do things that you usually do, like, doing the dishes or putting some music and dancing. I love to dance. That's one of my, let's say, hobbies. Painting. I love to paint. I haven't been painting my big paintings, but I have this like coloring book. And when I'm on a call or when I'm doing something in terms of I can doodle and paint, it makes me feel really great. So that's something you can do. Contribution is a huge one. And some people may call it purpose, right? I'm not saying just send out a check. That might feel good too, and it is good. But what are you doing to feel like you are contributing to somebody's life? It could be just one thing I do. I give myself a challenge. Well, not so much now because everybody's been wearing masks, but when we'll be able to see each other's mouths, I kept saying to myself, I'm going to go every time I go to the grocery store, the cashiers will always be smiling. And a lot of times I will show up at the grocery thing, hello, a little bit like grumpy or whatever, having whatever they're having. And I made my own challenge to make that person smile. That was a way to contribute. That gives me purpose. I really love doing that. Cooking a great meal for friends gives me purpose. Being on this call, doing the work I do gives me purpose. And so helping other people, friends that call me, just call somebody up that needs some help or some advice or some support if they're asking for it, or just connect and make somebody smile. Whatever it is, you need to be doing something that gives you purpose. It will feed your emotional home. And think of it as your emotional piggy bank. You want to be putting tons of great stuff in there. Then you also have your relationships, right? Yeah, and you're like, yeah, that's why I'm on this call, and that's why I'm listening to you, Jessica, to talk about relationship. And we're not only talking about romantic relationship. What are outside of your couple? What kind of relationships do you have? Sometimes, a lot of times, we look in our spouse or in our intimate relationship to have everybody, what a whole village used to be. And that adds a lot of stress. And having girlfriends to talk to for me is so important. Just coming out of quarantine for the first time yesterday, I went and hung out with some people. We did the social distancing. It was on the backyard, yet it was so good. It made me feel so amazing to spend times, and I feel so refreshed and energized from spending some time and nurturing that kind of relationship. If it's just calling a friend, if it's, what kind of relationships do you have with family? I'm more connected to my family now than I ever was before, and I'm going to keep that. It's such a beautiful thing to nurture our outside relationships, and it does impact your relationships at home 100%. So that's the self-awareness. Then you can by taking the course, go and look at the Feel Good menu and the 7-step expansion process at any time that emotional home is like shaky. depending on what's going on, we can take you from, being that stressful tension to expansion. However, you can already start with all those areas in life. Self-awareness, number one. Then, and only then, do you move to step two, right? First, you nurture, and there's no skipping. There's step one, self-awareness and nurturing your state, right? We talk about emotional state. Where are you? Like, are you up here? Are you in good vibration, or are you down low? Because the next step will not work if you have not nurtured that first step. So step two is self-clarity. Self-clarity. Before you communicate anything with your spouse, with your partner, or anyone actually, it's finding out what is it that you want first. And yes, you can use a friend to jump off with ideas. That's what we do a lot on the coaching side. And with our program, we have a members area where people can be discussing this. So it's important to, yes, take some ideas and borrow ideas of some people but really what matters, and you're being in that high vibration state, to look at first within what resonates with you, what matters to you. So we also have this clarity matrix that we go into detail. But one thing that you can do right now is, what do you want? So write down, what do you want and what do you need? There are very true distinctions there. Because sometimes we start picking on stuff that doesn't really matter. Like, what do I want? I want the dishes that I eat with to be clean, right? I want that to be, I need that to be clean. I want it. I need it. I don't want to eat off dirty plates, right? Now, do I need the dishwasher to be loaded a certain way? Yes, you can say, yeah, because it won't clean as good. It'll be clean. I mean, come on. It's still clean. Maybe you'll need to do 2 loads of dishwashers instead of just one because it's not loaded properly. It might sound like a silly joke, but have you ever had a discussion on how to load the dishwasher and had an argument about it? I have. It has happened. The key thing is, do you put the fork up this way or this way when you load the dishwasher? And then there's even the top rack, you have it this way or this way. It's funny, it's a silly example. Sometimes we pick on things that are not needs, they're just wants. So just make that list. What is it that you want? And then look at those. What are the things that are really, really non-negotiable? What are the things that you really need? And you'll notice that there's really not that much on that list. Doesn't mean you shouldn't go for what you want, but notice that there is that difference. So get clarity on that. One of the things that I love to do as well is, looking at all those wants and putting it in order of priority. That is a process that I do. I take the people go through the process of priority, and like that you have it in an order of priority, and it's easier to then communicate saying what's most important to you when there's nothing at stake. This is what's really important, to do all this when there's no decisions to be made right now, right? There's nothing that you're arguing about or you're needing to make a decision on. You're simply, for the sake of it, before decisions need to be made, before there's a discussion on something, you're just clarifying for you what matters to you, what actually matters to you before communicating it. Because a lot of times I hear couples that I coach that they start a discussion and they don't even know. They're finding out while they're talking. And that can create tension because things can be said that are not meant to be said, that didn't mean to be said. And so it can add quite a bit of tension there. So what do you want? What are your non-negotiables? And then in the self-clarity too, before, this is a step that, a process you want to do after as a couple, but before coming and doing it as a couple, do it on your own. And this process that I'm mentioning is, what are our roles? Who's in charge of what? And for some, it works not to do this. And for others, it's really helpful. For me, it's definitely helped me. Where we look at all the different things that need to be decided in a relationship, especially if you have children too. Who decide, like in terms of and I'm saying this is the right of veto. So there's the finances, there's, grocery shopping, the food that we eat, traveling, and maybe social life as well. And I see like successful couples and couples that I coach into this, where we make this list and we have this clarity matrix that helps us doing that. You could just like look at all the areas of decision making that you've ever had. There's a few areas, important areas: money, social, health, travel, all of those. And of course, you're always going to be talking about it and on the level ground of we're all, always have an input and everybody's allowed to be speaking, but there should be one person. Well, there should be, I take that back. In my experience, I've seen that this can work, not for everybody. However, for some, especially if they're having trouble in these areas of decision making and arguing in certain areas, is deciding who's really who got the veto right, and say, we've discussed this. These are bounced off the ideas. And I'm not saying, no, it's my way or the highway. What I'm saying is you talk about it. You come to an agreement. If you can't come to an agreement, you know that such person is the one that's going to be making that decision. And you trust that that person knows what's best. And you decide this before, again, crucial, before you actually have something to make a decision on, right? So it's not because you now have to decide he wants to, stereotypical example, silly, so let's do a silly example. You want to use the money that's in the savings account for a trip. He wants to buy a motorbike, right? So there's a decision to be making. Oh no, but let's decide who's going to be in charge of the finances. You're not going to do this exercise during that time. You do it before there needs to be a decision made, right? Because then there's a level ground of, a level-headed way of knowing, ultimately who's going to be making these decisions. I'm kind of rambling off. I hope that's clear. And also, who's in charge, right? Who's in charge of when the bills come home, of taking care of making sure the bills are paid on time, right? And organizing that. Who's in charge of making sure that we're eating healthy and of the menu at home? And then you can decide there are certain things that like that, one person doesn't need to be thinking about that and the other person is taking it on and you're supporting each other. Now, it doesn't mean that there's an agreement. It's like, during the week, it's me and on the weekend, it's you. Just look at what works for you. However, first find it inside. This is before even communicating it with your spouse. Like, what would you like first? With an open-mindedness that they also have what they would like, and then you'll come to an agreement, which is the next step. So once you have the beautiful emotional states, you're feeling amazing, you've nurtured and you've been very self-aware, you've now gained absolute clarity, self-clarity, you've done it, you maybe used the go, no go list and the clarity matrix that we give you during the course, and now you're super clear. Now you bring that in to your spouse. So if they want to do this exercise, that's awesome. If they're not doing it, you can simply ask questions, right? Kind of let's sit down, let's talk, and I'd really, really love, or how would you feel about telling me what really matters to you? What matters to you? What is really important to you in our relationship? What's really important? And what's some things that for you just you really need? What are your needs? And have that and pull that information without judgment, without criticism. Oh my goodness, criticism. I have a key. Okay, I want you to picture this. I want you to hear, oh, my keys are over there, so I'm not going to go get up and get them. But imagine I have a gold key right in my hand. I have a gold key in my hand. You will only open the door to the communication room with the gold key. Without this key, the door cannot be opened. Do not open it without the gold key. Otherwise, the room you're entering is not the right communication room. And this key is the no one is wrong mentality key. No one is wrong mentality key. If you enter the communication room with that, you will have, it will be so much easier. It would be so much easier because ultimately no one's wrong. You may disagree. You may not want that, right? It doesn't make the other person wrong. And that's been such a life lesson to me. And I still lose the key sometimes. I forget to use my key. And then it bites me. that it's a disservice to yourself, to your relationship, to those you love. And no one is wrong mentality, and understanding that we all have great intent. At the end of the day, we have great intent. 99.9% of the people have great intent. So notice that. So when they're sharing, have that key. No one is wrong. Remember, Jessica, and then hold the key. Imagine you have the key in your hand and you have the key. No one's wrong. No one's wrong. If you feel compelled, right, to judge and to, because we do. We're human. So that's super, super important. And it's clarifying that, and then really getting into discussing what you had talked when you prepared your clarity exercise, right? Your clarity matrix, your looking at your needs and wants, your priority list, sharing that, and then agreeing on the roles, the roles, and agreeing on, if there is a discussion, and you could have a safe word and decide, this is so powerful, to stop it right there. And the person who calls a safe word, and I think Peter was talking about this, if I'm not mistaken, you can bring like the white card or the red flag card, and you can imagine, I love visuals, so you do what you do. For me, the visual is great. So you bring out the red card, and the person who brings out the red card, a timeout card, is the person that then is going to come back to talk. So imagine I take the timeout card, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever time I need, not too long. You don't want to linger too long. You stop it right there when it's escalating, the energy is getting to somewhere, your emotional state is not there. Your number one is gone, right? So you bring out the card, you go, you do the 7-step process or whatever process that you want to do on step 1. And then the person who took out the card is the person that's going to come back and re-engage and say, okay, honey, now I'm ready to talk. And then it might escalate again, and whoop, red card. And then you give each other space. That's a cute way of doing it. It's a nice game. It works. It's effective. You can find what works for you. So really, those are the 3 areas of the no-go list. It's no-go and go zone. The no-go zone, when we're thinking about, is the clarity, is understanding like what's a go and what's a no-go. What's really a no-go and what's a go. And one thing I did not touch about the clarity thing is not only what you don't want and what you want, what makes you, especially like people don't go there. Even we were talking about on a different call, one of my incredible mentors and teachers, Alison Armstrong, I was just watching a video the other day, and she was talking about sexuality and the feminine and masculine energy and how we're so different, and how men and, well, the masculine energy, it's a go anytime. And it makes biological sense, right? Reproducing is something that you can do as a man 24/7 at any point. For ladies, I think we only feel sexual really automatically on our own without needing anything, any prompts or anything, for 60 hours in a month. I think that's it. It's the time when we're fertile. Makes biological sense. Now, that doesn't mean that's the only time we're interested. But what happens in relationships, especially if you've been around in a relationship for a while, is men also need to feel like there's a go, right? There's a go zone. So they're hunting, right? They're hunting, they're looking, like, is she ready? Is she okay? Like, does she want something? And we're not giving out signals because, again, we're only naturally giving out signals 60 hours of the month or something like that. And then so he waits, and a lot of time he waits for us to come to bed at the end of the day. And the way she explains it is so funny. It's like, we've been gathering all day, and everything's been talking to us, and all we want to do by the time we get to bed is just crash. A lot of times it's like we're too tired. It's just you need to go there before, interrupt. And one of the things that turn women on, listen, little secret, is to be desired and to see that we're desired, that we're wanted. So you don't have to wait for a signal. You don't. You can initiate, and we can talk about that during this clarity process, and we'll talk about it more in the course, and we'll have a bonus. I think we're doing a bonus on sexuality and communicating the differences, not only male, female, but we also have different archetypes and different needs within us. So how to discover that, and then how to communicate it. So lots of goodness. If you want goodies, if you want to get more information on the course, please leave that on the comments below, or click on the button. There might be a button around this video, or just add on the comments and we'll send you the information. But really, key takeaways: self-awareness. Where are you at? Look at all the areas of your life that you can nurture and feed. 2, before discussing anything, get self-clarity. And 3, communicate. And we can even talk about nonviolent communication. But remember my key and my red card. I'll leave you with that. My golden key, and the golden key is the no one is wrong key. No one is wrong communication key. And then you have the red card, which is a timeout card. And whoever put the timeout card on the table will come back and pick up where we left off. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. And if you have any questions, comments, please put them below and we'll address it real soon.
Thanks so much, Jess. So nurture yourself, clarify what you want, and communicate without making the other person wrong. And we're good to go. And we go into that on the course as well?
Yes, we dug much deeper into it, 100%.
Rock and roll. Thank you so much.
Oh, I did something wrong.